Well, let's face it, we were all wrong about Discovery from Calypso being the ship in the Veruban Nebula. But on a plus side, we get a Mirror Universe episode. Now, if this is your first contact with us, welcome aboard. My name's Carl Bromley, and this is the Trekkie's Guide to the Galaxy. Now, if you are new and you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell for notifications so that you find out whenever we post our new content. And don't forget, we're now live every Sunday night at 9 PM UK time with our friends from the USS Riker's Beard for Let's Talk Trek. So be sure to check that out if you enjoy a bit of light-hearted Trek-related entertainment. So, Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 9, Terra Firma, Part 1. Written by Bo-Yeon Kim, Erica Lipbolt and Alan McElroy, and directed by Omar Madar. Our episode opens up with Dr. Culber and Kovich discussing Georgiou's condition. During this conversation, we are introduced to Yor, a time soldier from the Kelvin universe. That's right, we get a direct reference to the Kelvin universe. We find out that Georgiou's condition is being caused by her being a person not only out of time, but out of universe as well. Turns out our molecules are only meant to exist where they were created. Who knew? And because the Prime and Mirror universes are drifting apart, it's causing real problems. So, Discovery's computer, which is now basically the best computer around because it has its own database from the past, some of which was lost in the burn, the current Federation database, and of course the Sphere data, manages to come up with a solution. That solution is to head to a snow planet named Danos 5, and after a brief meeting in which Admiral Vance didn't take much convincing for a change, the mission to take Georgiou there is authorised. So we head to Danos 5. Burnham and Georgiou beam down, and we meet my namesake, Carl. Now, we'll discuss who or what Carl is shortly, but for now, we'll just continue with the plot. Carl shows them a door, a good old-fashioned, big, thick wooden door, which might contain Georgiou's cure. She decides to go through, and the doorway leads to the Mirror universe where she comes from. But more than that, it takes her back to before the events of Season 1. So basically the plot summary is done, because the rest of the episode effectively covers the events leading up to the christening of the ISS Chiron. Now, that makes it sound like there's not much to the episode, but there are a few things that jumped out at me. Firstly, I think one of my favourite scenes in this episode is actually the very first one. Practically every scene in this season with Dr. Culber in it has been a winner in my opinion, and the way we get lots of snippets of information that tie in different parts of the Trek universe was brilliant. In our Time Soldier alone, we got Series 1 TNG uniform alongside references to him originating in the Kelvin universe, and once again a mention of the temporal Cold Wars from Enterprise. But I'm going to be honest, unfortunately for me, this scene was the highlight of the episode, and it struggled keeping my attention for most of the rest of it. I'm not sure about the way the writers have portrayed Saru either. After his conversations with the Navarre president Tarina about the problems with the Federation prior to the burn a couple of episodes ago, and the fact that in the last episode he was able to make the right call and find a way around his orders without getting into trouble. I found it bizarre that in this episode, the writers had him quoting the Vulcan maxim, the needs of the many. Now, I get that it gives the writers the opportunity to show that the Federation is maybe starting to learn from its mistakes and possibly move away from such thinking, which, in the long run, could help them bring back worlds such as Navarre back into the fold. But I think they did this at the expense of Saru's character development, because as much as he's always leaned on the principles of the Federation and Starfleet protocols for guidance, he's also had the experience of serving under Captain Christopher Pike, who repeatedly showed that you do not ever sacrifice a member of the crew if there's even the slightest possibility of saving them. He did it with Jet Reno, he did it with Tilly, he did it with Spock. Hell, it's the reason he ends up talking through a blinking light, for goodness sake. Saru has already seen this principle in action, and he's never struck me as the sort that would have made that decision. It's as if they're purposely making every decision Saru makes the polar opposite of what Vance would do. And I just hope in the long run it isn't to his detriment, because I really like Saru. Anyway, while we're on the subject of the Prime Universe still, we do get a bit more information about the burn, and it turns out we were all wrong. It's not the Discovery from Calypso in the Varuban Nebula. It's a Kelpian ship, KSF Kiev. They were stranded in the nebula after going there on a mission for the Federation to investigate a dilithium nursery, at least a few years before the burn happened. Stamets says they can find out what's happening on the ship by using its prefix code to open a back door into the sensors. Nice little nod to Star Trek II there. But unfortunately, this is all we get about the burn in this episode, but we can't have too much longer to wait for the mystery to be solved, surely. I mean, there's only 4 episodes left now? Right, let's talk about Carl. There are a couple of theories that pop into my head, so let's look at those. Is he a Q? Well, it's entirely possible. He appears out of nowhere and is being fairly cryptic, but other than Q who have become mortal, they're all called Q. And also there were 2 other things missing. There was no white flash, the trademark appearance of anyone from the Continuum. And the other thing missing was John Delancey. I'd like to think that if they were to bring a Q into the season, they would bring in the original. And I've got to be honest, it'd be pretty disappointing if they didn't. Now, the only thing that makes me think it might be a Q is the fact that when Georgiou does go through to the Mirror Universe, the events aren't unfolding the way they should. Changes are occurring that would have big impacts on the way Discovery's whole history plays out, such as her killing Mirror Stamets. That's not the way he died in Season 1. So, unless this is some kind of, you know, like the deal Picard had off Q in the great TNG episode Tapestry, where any changes will only affect him and nothing else in the timeline will be altered, then it simply can't be her actual past. Unless the plan is to wipe the first 2 seasons from existence, or to have whatever changes Georgiou makes cause the burn somehow. But I don't think that's the way this 2-parter is heading. It looks like it's all about Georgiou's redemption as a character, and how, as much as she'd hate to admit it, living amongst the crew of Discovery and the Federation has changed her for the better. So I guess we'll have to wait for the next episode to see how this plays out. Now, another possibility for Carl is that he's some sort of Guardian of Forever, like the one we see in the classic TOS episode City on the Edge of Forever. Now, the Guardian of Forever was not just a time portal. Spock theorised that it's a gateway across time and dimensions, and the portal agreed with him on that. And there are references to that episode here, not least of which is the fact that the paper Carl is holding is the same publication as we see in that episode, the Star Dispatch. And it does have an article about the 21st Street mission on one of the pages that we see. The problem is that any changes made after passing through a Guardian's portal do affect the future you come from, and therefore what Georgiou is doing will have an impact on the future she comes back to. That is, of course, assuming she does come back. Now, I suppose the other possibility is that Carl is some sort of new, unknown entity who has these powers to be able to send people across time and dimensions. Well, whoever or whatever he is, at least he's got a cool name. So, now we need to give this episode a rating. Well, I'm going to be honest and say that as much as I usually like Mirror Universe episodes, this one I struggled with. It's basically filling in a bit of history for that universe at the same time as being a flashback type do-over for Georgiou. I think that the thing that used to make DS9's Mirror episodes so good was that we knew all of the characters that we were seeing, and we knew them well. So to see their counterparts was brilliant. But in Discovery, however, despite being well into the third season now, we're only just starting to get to know the characters, and so we don't really get a sense of difference as much as we have with other crossover episodes. I honestly think this is an episode that I'm going to have to watch a few more times before I see where it might be going. But I suppose in a way that's half the charm of a two-parter, and if I was able to say what was going to happen in the next episode, then it really wouldn't be worth watching. But I definitely think this is one of the weaker episodes of the season, and I just hope that part 2 shores it back up again. So, on reflection, I'm going to give Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 9, Terra Firma Part 1, a warp factor rating of 7. Well, thanks for watching, folks. I hope you enjoyed the review, and if you did, don't forget to smash that like button for us. I'd love to hear what you thought of the episode, so please drop your thoughts in the comments down below and let's discuss. Also, if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell for notifications so that you find out whenever we post any new content. And don't forget, we're now live every Sunday night at 9 PM UK time with our friends from the USS Riker's Beard for Let's Talk Trek. So if you like light-hearted Trek entertainment, be sure to join us for that. And in the meantime, set a course for Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 10, Warp 7. Engage.